Ambassador Chen adjusted her formal robes as she entered the grand hall of Europa Station. The crystalline dome above revealed Jupiter's swirling storms, casting an ethereal glow over the assembled dignitaries. Today marked humanity's 10th anniversary in the Galactic Council, a milestone that should have been celebrated. Instead, Krell Ambassador Vortak towered over the human delegation, his chitinous armor gleaming under the artificial lights. His 4 arms gestured dismissively as he addressed the gathering. 10 years, Vortak's translator buzzed, and still the humans play at being a spacefaring civilization. Look at them. Soft, fragile creatures who discovered FTL by accident and dare to sit among their betters. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Chen maintained her composure, though her aide noticed her fingers twitching. The only sign of her fury. Ambassador Vortak. Chen responded calmly. Humanity seeks only peaceful cooperation. Peace. Vortak's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. Peace is for equals. You are not our equals. You are barely sapient by Krell's standards. Without waiting for a response, Vortak turned and strode from the hall, his honor guard falling in behind him. The other ambassadors shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact with the humans. 6 hours later, Chen was in her quarters when the emergency alerts began. Her comm unit flared to life with incoming priority transmissions. She rushed to the command center, where screens displayed the unthinkable. New Tasmania, destroyed. Population 400,000. No survivors. Harmony Station, obliterated. Population 50,000. No survivors. Kepler's Hope, burning. Population 2.8 million. Evacuation impossible. The tactical displays showed Krell dreadnoughts methodically targeting civilian infrastructure. There had been no declaration of war, no ultimatum, just sudden, brutal annihilation. Chen watched, numb, as the feeds showed children's playgrounds vaporizing, hospitals collapsing, and refugee ships being picked off as they tried to flee. The attacks were precisely calculated to maximize civilian casualties while avoiding military installations, a message of terror rather than strategic warfare. Then came the broadcast. Emperor Caravale appeared on every screen in human space, his ceremonial armor polished to a mirror shine. Humans of Earth, his translator intoned with mechanical precision, you have witnessed the price of arrogance. Your colonies burn because you forgot your place. Submit unconditionally, accept Krell governance, or face extinction. You have 1 standard day to comply. The transmission ended, replaced by repeating footage of the attacks, a psychological warfare tactic to break human morale. In Earth's presidential bunker, Sarah Matthews sat at the head of a silent table. Every face showed shock, grief, rage. The Secretary of Defense's hands shook as he compiled casualty reports. 3 billion people watched the live streams in horror. President Matthews stood. The room fell silent. Activate Protocol Vendetta, she said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. The military officers present straightened. Several civilian advisors looked confused. Madam President, the Secretary of State ventured, what is Protocol Vendetta? Matthews turned to face the screens showing the burning colonies. It's the reason we've really been mining all those asteroids for 50 years. She pressed her palm to a biometric scanner. They want to see humanity's true face. Let's show them. Deep beneath the lunar surface, ancient systems hummed to life. Marcus Wong had worked as a maintenance technician on Cirrus Station for 12 years. His job was simple. Clean the solar panels on Mining Complex 47B, check the atmospheric regulators, and file routine reports. Today started like any other shift, until the asteroid began to move. At first, he thought it was an earthquake. Then he remembered asteroids don't have earthquakes. The rocky surface beneath his boots started shifting, panels sliding apart like puzzle pieces. Marcus scrambled backward as massive sections of what he'd always believed was solid rock retracted, revealing gleaming metal underneath. Control, this is Wong. He radioed, voice shaking. The asteroid. It's not an asteroid. Similar scenes unfolded across the solar system. On Mars, vast canyons that had been dismissed as natural formations split open, disgorging ships that had been constructed in secret underground facilities. The famous Valles Marineris, not a natural canyon system at all, but humanity's largest shipyard. Beneath Titan's methane seas, massive hangar doors opened for the first time in decades. Submarines that had supposedly been researching the moon's hydrocarbon lakes revealed their true purpose as they surfaced and shed their disguises, transforming into sleek warships that broke atmosphere within minutes. In the asteroid belt, thousands of mining operations simultaneously dropped their camouflage. Construction drones that had spent years pretending to extract ore switched to their primary functions, applying final touches to warships that had been built inside hollowed-out asteroids. Deep space monitoring stations across the galaxy detected the massive energy signatures. Alien civilizations watched in disbelief as humanity's true military might revealed itself. The primitive humans hadn't just been mining resources. They'd been preparing for war on a scale the galaxy had never seen. On Luna, President Matthews stood in the command center of Earthdome, watching feeds from across the system. Admiral Zhao approached, his face grim but satisfied. Madam President, Phase 1 of Protocol Vendetta is complete. Current count, 1 million vessels combat-ready, with more coming online every minute. Matthews nodded. And the naming protocol? Active. Every ship bears the name of someone we lost in the attacks. Zhao's voice caught slightly. The lead dreadnought is the New Tasmania's Children, the Krell military attaché on Earth, who had been detained for questioning, watched the displays with growing horror. He'd spent years filing reports about humanity's limited shipbuilding capacity. Now he understood. Every figure had been carefully crafted disinformation. Impossible, he muttered. Your industrial base, it can't support this. Matthews turned to him. You made a fundamental error, Ambassador. You thought our mining operations were about profit. They were about survival. Every ton of ore we reported selling, we kept it. Every mining accident that destroyed equipment, cover for expanding our facilities. Across human space, the awakening continued. Phobos and Deimos revealed themselves as massive carrier platforms. The rings of Saturn disgorged squadrons of fighters that had been hidden among the ice particles. Even Earth's moon, humanity's first stepping stone to the stars, proved to be more than it seemed as massive doors opened in crater floors. The galaxy watched as Earth's deception unraveled, revealing not a species of merchants and dreamers, but one that had learned history's bloody lessons all too well. Humanity had looked to the stars with hope, but they'd prepared for the worst. 1 million warships stood ready, their hulls gleaming with fresh names of the dead, their weapons powered and aimed at Krell space. And this was only the beginning. Lieutenant Kritak of Krell Intelligence had spent months establishing her cover as a human maintenance worker. Her biosynthetic disguise was perfect, her accent flawless. Today, she would finally infiltrate Earth's primary shipyard and transmit their manufacturing secrets back to the Empire. What she found defied everything she knew about industrial production. The facility stretched for kilometers beneath the Siberian tundra. But instead of assembly lines, welding robots, or traditional manufacturing equipment, she discovered something that made her question her sanity. Massive chambers housed swirling vortexes of energy, each containing what her stolen scanner identified as a stabilized microsingularity. Welcome to Quantum Foundry 12, a cheerful AI voice announced as she entered the main production floor. Current status: ship number 3,247,891 materializing. Estimated completion: 4 minutes, 17 seconds. Kritak watched in disbelief as reality itself seemed to bend. Raw materials were fed into the Singularity's event horizon, underwent quantum manipulation at the Planck scale, and emerged as fully formed starship components. The process violated several laws of physics the Krell considered immutable. How? She whispered, forgetting her cover momentarily. "Oh, that's simple," replied Dr. Elena Richter, the facility's chief scientist who had appeared beside her. "We reverse-engineered the process from crashed predecessor artifacts. Turns out, if you can manipulate quantum foam directly, traditional manufacturing becomes obsolete." Kurtak's mind reeled. The predecessors were a myth, an ancient civilization that had supposedly transcended physical reality eons ago. If humans had found their technology. "You're not actually maintenance crew, are you?" Richter asked conversationally. "The quantum scanners detected your non-human neural patterns the moment you entered. We've been letting you record everything." Kurtak reached for her concealed weapon, but found herself immobilized by a containment field. "Please, continue your mission," Richter smiled. "We want the Krell to know exactly what they're facing." Ship 3,247,892 is now complete. By the way, we've increased production by 300% since your Emperor's charming ultimatum. Across Earth's territories, similar scenes played out. The Krell had assumed human industry followed conventional patterns: raw materials, processing, assembly, testing. Instead, humanity had achieved something considered impossible: true matter compilation at the atomic level. In high orbit above Venus, the largest quantum foundry operated at full capacity. Here, the planet's intense heat and pressure were harnessed to power a singularity large enough to produce dreadnought-class vessels. Ship after ship materialized from the quantum foam, each taking mere hours instead of months to complete. The galactic markets crashed as observers realized the implications. Human manufacturing had transcended scarcity. With enough energy, they could literally print fleets. Kurtak's final transmission reached the Krell High Command as intended. The Emperor's War Council fell silent as they watched humans conjure warships from pure energy and raw materials. "My lord," the science minister stammered, "if these readings are accurate, they could produce 1,000,000 ships in the time it takes us to build 1,000. Their industrial capacity is infinite." The Emperor's chidness face remained impassive, but his antennae betrayed his fear. "Surely this is an elaborate deception." As if in answer, Earth's broadcasts showed the ship count passing 4 million. The quantum foundries weren't just building ships, they were revolutionizing war itself. Each vessel emerged complete with AI systems, weapons, and even pre-programmed tactical databases containing the names and stories of those lost in the colony attacks. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war. They'd prepared to win it through sheer industrial supremacy. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Representatives from 100 species watched the holographic display in stunned silence as the number climbed. 4,782,346. 4,782,347. 4,782,348. Elder Zinthar of the ancient Centauri race leaned forward, his crystalline eyes reflecting the counter. His species had watched civilizations rise and fall for millennia, but never had they witnessed anything like this. "We thought humans were merchants and artists," he whispered to his aide. "We invited them to trade consortiums, cultural exchanges. We never suspected." "Their literature did warn us," the aide responded. "Their history is filled with tales of sleeping giants awakened by foolish provocations." At the center of the chamber, Ambassador Chen stood with quiet dignity. Gone were the flowing diplomatic robes. She now wore a crisp military uniform, its only decoration a black armband bearing the names of destroyed colonies. "The human delegation calls for an emergency session regarding the Krell Empire's unprovoked genocide," she announced. Emperor Carvale's hologram flickered into existence, mandibles clicking dismissively. "This theatrical display changes nothing. Holograms and censor ghosts can it." Chen cut him off with a gesture. "Admiral Petrov, please demonstrate the reality of our fleet." On screens throughout the chamber, a live feed showed a decommissioned human frigate positioned near the Krell homeworld's smaller moon. A single vessel from the human armada fired. The frigate vaporized instantly, and the resulting explosion carved a new crater visible from the planet's surface. That was ship number 17 of the New Tasmania Memorial Fleet, Chen stated coldly. We have 4.8 million more. Would you like another demonstration? The chamber erupted. Lesser species who had long suffered under Krell dominion began cheering. Others demanded immediate evacuation from the conflict zone. The Krell delegation stormed out, declaring the humans would pay for this insolence. In Earth's command center, President Matthews watched the chaos unfold. Status report. 5 million ships achieved. Admiral Zhao reported. The Krell are mobilizing their Grand Armada, approximately 200,000 vessels. They still believe their technological superiority will prevail. Matthews nodded grimly. Let them come. How are our allies responding? The Verax Confederation has offered logistical support. The Meridian Collective is providing intelligence. Even the isolationist Kintar have broken centuries of silence to condemn the Krell attacks. On the Galactic news networks, military analysts struggled to comprehend the scale of human production. A Tarlaxian expert gestured wildly at strategic maps. In all recorded history, the largest fleet ever assembled was the predecessor Armada at 300,000 ships. The humans have exceeded that by a factor of 16 and are still building. The psychological impact rippled across civilizations. Stock markets for military contractors crashed. Pacifist movements gained momentum on warrior worlds. Religious orders proclaimed humanity as either divine instruments or harbingers of apocalypse. In the Krell throne room, Emperor Carveil received reports of unrest in his outer provinces. Governors questioned the wisdom of provoking a species capable of such industry. Military commanders quietly suggested negotiation. They are bluffing, he roared. No species can maintain such production. It will collapse under its own weight. As if to mock his words, the counter reached 5 million. The galaxy held its breath, watching an empire's arrogance collide with humanity's prepared fury. The age of Krell dominance was ending not with a whimper, but with the birth cry of 5 million engines of vengeance. The real war hadn't even begun, and already the balance of power had shifted forever. Commander Sofia Martinez floated in the neural interface chamber of the HSS Retribution, her consciousness expanding to encompass 10,000 warships. Around her, other swarm commanders did the same, each human mind becoming a node in humanity's greatest military innovation. The Krell Grand Armada emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 200,000 ships arranged in their traditional battle sphere, shields interlocked, weapons primed. Admiral Corsath had never lost a battle, and his tactical genius had crushed dozens of civilizations. He was about to face something entirely new. Human vessels detected, his tactical officer reported. They're not forming battle lines, Admiral. Indeed, the human ships moved like a murmuration of starlings, flowing and shifting in patterns that seemed random but held terrifying purpose. Martinez felt the rhythm of the swarm, her enhanced mind processing battlefield data from thousands of perspectives simultaneously. What are they doing? Corsath demanded as the human ships began their dance. The answer came moments later. The swarm split into hundreds of smaller formations, each moving with impossible coordination. They struck at the Krell sphere from every angle, probing for weaknesses, feinting and withdrawing faster than the rigid Krell formations could respond. Impossible. Corsath watched his tactical display in disbelief. No commander can coordinate that many independent units. He was right. No single commander could. But humanity had never relied on single commanders. Martinez guided her segment of the swarm through a gap in the Krell shields, her ships firing in perfect sequence. Kinetic rounds, primitive by galactic standards, punched through energy barriers designed to stop plasma and lasers. The Krell had optimized their defenses against energy weapons, never considering that humans might embrace obsolete projectile technology. Swarm 7. Execute Murmuration Pattern Delta. she commanded through the neural link. Her ships responded instantly, creating a three-dimensional maze that trapped a Krell battle group. In seconds, the enemy vessels were torn apart by crossfire from every direction. Across the battle, similar scenes unfolded. Human ships moved like schools of fish, like flocks of birds, like swarms of insects. Patterns evolved over millions of years on Earth, now weaponized for space combat. The Krell's rigid formations, designed for traditional naval engagements, crumbled before this organic chaos. Then came the revelation that truly broke Krell morale. Ship number 6 million arrived with humanity's secret weapon. The HSS Prometheus carried a planet cracker, technology the galaxy thought lost with the predecessors. Its mere presence sent shockwaves through both fleets. "We didn't want to build this," President Matthews announced on all channels. "But you left us no choice." The planet cracker fired a demonstration shot into empty space. Reality itself seemed to tear, leaving a wound in space-time that slowly healed. The message was clear. Humanity could end worlds if pushed far enough. Korsath watched his perfect formations dissolve. His disciplined warriors panicked before an enemy that fought like nature itself. Beautiful, terrible, and utterly unpredictable. His tactical genius meant nothing against commanders who thought in swarm logic, who treated spacecraft like neurons in a vast military brain. "Admiral," his second-in-command reported, voice shaking, "we've lost 40% of the fleet. Their losses are negligible." For the first time in his career, Korsath gave the order he never thought he'd speak. "All units, retreat. The humans, they don't fight like warriors. They fight like a force of nature." The swarm let them go. Humanity had made its point. The galaxy would never again mistake human creativity for weakness. Private Zekler of the Krell 3rd Legion watched the human ships approach his homeworld's orbital defense platform. He braced for bombardment, but instead, his communicator crackled with a message in perfect Krell. "Attention defenders of Krell R Prime. We offer you a choice. Lay down your arms and live, or die defending those who would sacrifice you." Across the Krell Empire, similar scenes unfolded. Human fleets didn't glass planets or massacre civilians. They disabled military installations surgically, then broadcast messages of liberation. Where Krell commanders expected brutality to match their own, they found something far more devastating: compassion. In the undercity of the Krell capital, a young programmer named Vexna watched human ships distribute food and medical supplies to districts the Empire had long neglected. She'd spent years developing Imperial control software, but now she saw an opportunity. With trembling claws, she began coding. "Citizens of the Empire," her broadcast began, hijacking military frequencies, "I give you freedom." Her program spread through Krell networks like wildfire, disabling the neural compliance chips that kept the population docile. Centuries of suppressed rage erupted. Emperor Caravale watched his palace screens in horror as revolution consumed his worlds. "Deploy the loyalty enforcers. Execute the rebellion protocols." "My lord," his aide reported, terrified. "The enforcers are joining the rebels. They're saying the humans promised them amnesty for war crimes if they switch sides." In orbit, Admiral Zhao coordinated the protection of rebel enclaves, established safe zones around civilian uprising locations. Any Krell military unit that fires on its own people gets one warning. Then we intervene. The revolution spread faster than anyone predicted. On Krelltok, factory workers seized control of weapons plants. On Verskel, student protests paralyzed the military academies. Even the Emperor's own Imperial Guard began to waver as they saw human ships defending Krell citizens from their own government's reprisals. Vexna's next transmission included footage from liberated worlds, Krell and humans working together, rebuilding what the Empire had destroyed. "Look at what's possible," she urged her people. "They don't want to conquer us. They want to free us from ourselves." The tipping point came when Admiral Korsath, defeated but not destroyed, made an unprecedented decision. He opened a channel to the human command ship. "I have served the Empire my entire life," he said, mandibles quivering with emotion. "I have committed atrocities in its name, but I will not fire upon my own people." The Seventh Fleet surrenders and requests asylum. President Matthews herself responded, "Admiral Corsath, you will face justice for your actions against our colonies, but you will face it in a fair trial, not summary execution. That is the difference between us." As the 6 million human ship entered Krell space, the Empire collapsed not from external conquest, but internal transformation. Governors declared independence. Generals switched allegiances. The slave species rose up, supported by human protection. Emperor Caravale retreated to his bunker, issuing increasingly desperate orders to forces that no longer existed. Outside, his people cheered as human medical ships treated injuries that Krell doctors had deemed wasteful to address. The galaxy witnessed something unprecedented. A superpower overthrown not by superior firepower, but by the example of a better way. Humanity had weaponized hope itself, and against that, the Krell Empire's fear-based rule stood no chance. The revolution cascade continued, unstoppable as the tide. The 7 millionth ship emerged from Earth's primary quantum foundry as the Krell throne world came into view. Hayes's final argument joined its sisters in a formation that defied comprehension. 7 million vessels arranged in a perfect sphere around Krellaxis Prime, their engine signatures pulsing in synchronized waves that created patterns visible from neighboring star systems. From the command deck of the flagship HSS Vengeance remembered, Admiral Chen, promoted from her diplomatic post, orchestrated humanity's final movement. Neural links connected every commander, every ship, every weapon system into a single, unified instrument of justice. "Formation complete," reported Commander Martinez. "The symphony is ready." Emperor Caravale huddled in his bunker 3 kilometers beneath the palace, surrounded by the last loyalists of his crumbling regime. The screens showed the impossible. 7 million ships creating geometric patterns that shifted like kaleidoscopes, their formations spelling out messages in ancient Krell script. Justice, freedom, choice, fire everything. Carvale screamed, "Activate the planetary defense grid." The remaining loyal forces opened fire. Beams of energy and streams of projectiles lanced toward the human fleet, and accomplished nothing. The swarm formation shifted, creating gaps that allowed attacks to pass harmlessly through. It was like trying to shoot a cloud. Then Admiral Chen broadcast on all frequencies, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's judgment. "Emperor Caravale, sovereign of the Krell Empire, you are charged with genocide, war crimes, and crimes against sentience itself. You have 1 hour to surrender and face trial. If you refuse..." She paused, letting the silence build. "We will demonstrate why Earth's children learn about the French Revolution, the fall of Rome, and the Nuremberg trials in their history classes." To emphasize the point, a single human ship fired a demonstration shot. It struck a barren moon, initiating a controlled stellar reaction. The moon began to glow, then pulse, then transformed into a miniature star that illuminated the night side of Krellaxis Prime. "We can ignite your sun," Chen continued, "or freeze it. We can rewrite the fundamental constants of physics in localized space. The predecessors left us their tools, and unlike you, we learned to use them responsibly." Inside the bunker, Carvale's advisors broke. One by one, they laid down their weapons and activated the bunker's communication systems. "We surrender," the Minister of War transmitted. "The Emperor, he's lost touch with reality. We'll bring him to you." Carvale raised his ceremonial blade to strike down the traitor, but found himself facing his own Imperial Guard. The captain, tears in his compound eyes, gently took the weapon. "It's over, my lord," he said. "Let us end this with dignity." As the Emperor was escorted to the surface, the 7 million ships began their true purpose. They projected holographic memorials across the planet's sky, faces and names of every being lost in the colony attacks, every slave who died in Krell mines, every soldier sent to die in meaningless wars. The symphony reached its crescendo as Caravale emerged from his bunker. 7 million ships sang with their engines, creating harmonics that resonated through the planet's atmosphere. It wasn't a song of vengeance, but of remembrance. The Emperor looked up at the faces of his victims filling the sky, and for the first time in his life, understood the true cost of empire. He fell to his knees, not in submission to humanity, but in recognition of his own monstrosity. The galaxy watched as justice arrived not with fury, but with the solemn dignity of those who understood that even necessary violence was a tragedy. The decommissioning ceremony took place in the Sol system, broadcast to every corner of known space. President Matthews stood before the assembled representatives of 100 worlds, human and alien alike, as the great dismantling began. "We built 7 million warships because we had to," she declared. "Now we unmake them because we choose to." Across human space, quantum foundries reversed their processes. 6.5 million warships dissolved back into their component atoms, their matter restructured into orbital habitats, terraforming equipment, and vast solar arrays. The HSS Retribution became a hospital ship. The Vengeance Remembered transformed into a mobile university. The remaining 500,000 vessels formed the Free World's Peacekeepers, their mission forever changed from vengeance to protection. Every species could request their presence to prevent the rise of new tyrants. At the War Crimes Tribunal on neutral ground, former Emperor Caravale faced justice. But instead of execution, he received a sentence that shocked the galaxy. He would spend his remaining years teaching about the dangers of supremacist ideology, traveling between worlds to bear witness to his own crimes. Vengeance perpetuates cycles, the human judge explained. Education breaks them. The real surprise came during the formation of the Galactic Federation. Earth's representatives unveiled their final revelation. They could have built 70 million ships if they'd maximized production. The quantum foundries had operated at only 10% capacity. "We chose restraint," Ambassador Chen explained to the stunned assembly. "Power without wisdom is tyranny. We stopped at 7 million because that was enough to end the threat, not exterminate a species." In schools across the galaxy, a new flag was raised, designed by 8-year-old Maya Thompson from New Tasmania, the first colony rebuilt after the attacks. Her crayon drawing showed beings of all species holding hands beneath a field of stars, with the words "Never Again" together written in every known language. The Krell, freed from imperial rule, embraced democracy with the enthusiasm of the newly liberated. Vexna became their first elected leader, implementing reforms that would have been unthinkable months before. Human advisors helped, but never ruled. Earth had learned the lessons of its own colonial past. Other species took note. Warrior cultures reconsidered their philosophies. Pacifist worlds realized that peace sometimes required the capacity for overwhelming force, judiciously restrained. The balance of power shifted not through conquest, but through example. In the Museum of Galactic Peace, built on the site of the first colony attack, visitors could walk through halls displaying artifacts from the war, pieces of destroyed ships, recordings of the symphony, the neural interface helmet worn by Commander Martinez during the swarm battles. But the most popular exhibit was the simplest, a holographic counter showing the number 7 million, slowly ticking down to 500,000, with a simple plaque beneath. Humanity's greatest weapon was not its ships, but its choice to stop building them. They proved that true strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to rebuild, the courage to forgive, and the determination to ensure that no child of any species would again wake to the sound of orbital bombardment. We thought them weak because they dreamed of peace. We learned they were strong because they could enforce it. The age of empires had ended. The age of federation had begun. And somewhere in the depths of space, the quantum foundries lay dormant but not dismantled, a reminder that humanity's mercy was a choice, not a weakness, and that 7 million warships could rise again if that mercy was ever mistaken for vulnerability. The stars belonged to all species now, protected by those who had proven they could win a war but chose instead to win a peace.